Lord Ramchandra's appearance day is tomorrow, Ram Navami. So we'll glorify Lord Ramchandra a little bit. Then at 8:50, we'll invite the kids to present their drama. So we are on page 15 or 16. The paragraph starts with, there are many examples given of how we are to utilize those things which are set aside for us by the Lord. There are many examples. Everybody got it? There are many examples given of how we are to utilize those things which are set aside for us by the Lord. This is also explained in... Somebody can start the recording.
Oh, I did.
This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning, Arjuna decided that he should not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. This was his own decision. Arjuna told the Lord that it was not possible for him to enjoy the kingdom after killing his own kinsman. This decision was based on the body because he was thinking that the body was himself and that his bodily relations or expansions were his brothers, nephews, brothers-in-law, grandfathers, and so on. Therefore, he wanted to satisfy his bodily demands. Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord just to change this view. And at the end, Arjuna decides to fight under the directions of the Lord when he says, Karishye vachanam tava, I shall act according to your word. Okay. So the topic changes in the next paragraph, so we can maybe discuss this. A very important point that is being made here. How to act on a spiritual platform, right? So Arjuna's decision initially to not fight was based on one of his considerations. There are many considerations, but all of the considerations were actually directed at himself. It was directed at himself. So his first concern was, I will incur sinful reactions. There's so many people will be killed, and so many women and children, they will become orphans, nobody to take care of them. So all that sinful reaction that will happen, I will be responsible for that. So it was good that he was taking responsibility, but he was really focused on himself, that I don't want to get sinful reaction, and therefore I should not fight. And his second consideration was that, what is the benefit? What is the benefit for me in this fight? Because even if I win, then that means that all my family members, all my nephews, brothers, fathers, everybody will be killed. So then even if I win, then who will I enjoy this kingdom with? Right? So that was his second consideration. Who will I enjoy with, even if I win? So again you see, his focus is on himself. Outwardly it appears that he was acting in a very compassionate manner. And that was also a thread in his thought, that he was compassionate to all the unnecessary killing. But that was not the only consideration he had. His consideration, you can see the multi-layered consideration. Like when we make a decision many times in our life, right? It's not always one thing. So many things are going on, and sometimes we react in a certain way. The person says something, then we react. Although the person says something very simple, but then our reaction many times is much more bigger than it should be. And then the other person is thinking, what happened? What happened? But then in our mind there are many, many things. Maybe something from the past the person said, or some interaction, that is also carrying out in our mind, and then we react not on what the person said or did, but something from the past. So there are many things going on at the same time when we decide something, when we react to something. Because we are a complex being. Humans are complex beings. We have our emotions, we have our mind, we have our feelings. So many things are going on, and that's how we come to decide on something. But rarely in the conditioned being decides on the platform of what is the desire of Krishna. 99% of the time, a conditioned being who has not started the process of Krishna consciousness, we decide on the basis of what's in it for me. So Arjuna, you will see in the first chapter, it says, Kim no rajyena govinda, kim bhogeda jivitena va. So that's called like the Kim verse. Kim. You will see that word Kim appears many times. And you translate that in English, what's in it for me, what's in it for me, what's in it for me, what's in it for me. So that was his primary consideration, what's in it for me. Krishna, you brought me to fight, but what's in it for me? And in a way, Arjuna was kind of almost accusing Krishna that you already know about these things. You already know what are religious principles, unnecessary, there should not be unnecessary killing. There's so many things that you already know, so why have you brought me here? So that was Arjuna's internal mood also. But he surrendered finally. He could not really get out of it because he realized that this is beyond me. So here it is being said that Arjuna's consideration was very self-directed. And you will see that whenever we make any decision in life, it could be related to ourselves, it could be related to our children, it could be related to our family, it could be related to our finance, it could be related to our work. We make so many choices in life, and whenever these choices are made just on the basis of what's in it for me, or what is comfortable for me, or what is too much for me, I can't do this, I can do this. So many considerations we make. When we're just thinking about ourselves, then more often than not, we end up making the wrong decision. Right? Because we are so focused on ourselves, we are not able to see beyond. We are not able to. When we are so focused on ourselves, then our vision becomes very narrow. It becomes short-sighted. We are not able to see far. We are not able to open up our heart and mind and see what's. And this is what Arjuna was going through. It always causes confusion and indecision. So, in this paragraph, Prabhupada is saying that this is based on the bodily consideration, and therefore he was very perplexed and needed higher direction. So Bhagavad Gita, because many times people challenge that Arjuna was proposing peace. Arjuna was proposing peace. He didn't want to have the battle, and Krishna, God, he should have supported that. He should have supported this unnecessary killing. Instead, he excited Arjuna to fight, and he sent the message of violence. So people say Bhagavad Gita is about violence. So many people say this. So many people also ask Prabhupada this question, that these are the words of God, but he's asking to fight and kill. So what kind of God is he, and what kind of message is this? But actually it is not. This is not a message of violence or peace either. Prabhupada said this is neither. This is not a message of violence or peace. The whole Bhagavad Gita is about dharma. Like the first verse is dharma kshetre. So the whole thesis of Bhagavad Gita is about dharma. And understanding dharma is not so easy. We use our tiny brains to decide what dharma is, and then, oh, this is right, this is wrong, how can God do this, how can God do this, how can he say this? And then we try to bring everybody under the rule of our dharma. Right? But dharma is very subtle, dharma is very, but also very direct. Prabhupada says dharma means the words of God. What Krishna desires, what he orders, that is dharma, very simple. And then if he orders us to fight, then we fight. If he orders us to be peaceful, then we be peaceful. So that is in some substance of dharma, to act according to the desire of God. And then we will never go wrong if we do that. We'll always be protected by the hands of God if we follow the orders of God. And Arjuna finally came to that conclusion that yes, Krishna, I will do. I fully understood what this means, and I will do as you are saying. Karishye vachanam tava. And this can be the motto of our lives. Karishye vachanam tava. Krishna, my life is meant to carry out your orders, carry out your vachan. Karishye vachanam tava. Rather than Karishye vachanam tava. Like our motto is, whatever my mind says, I'm going to do this. And this is conditioned life. Everybody, all of us are going through this. But we can come out of this slowly by slowly. In decisions that we make, is this good for is this decision going to bring me closer to Krishna? That can be a question that we can ask every time we make smaller or bigger decisions. Is this good for my spiritual life? Is this going to make me stronger in spiritual life or weaker in spiritual life? So getting into this habit will make us dear to Krishna. Krishna says, okay, this person is now willing to listen to me. Because Krishna is a gentleman and he never enforces his will on any living entity. He becomes invisible and lets us do whatever we want to do. He's a very, very gentleman. So he never tries to push us around, but rather he gets pushed around by us. So when we decide to go into a lower birth, like animal birth or insect birth, then we drag Krishna with us. He doesn't have to come with us, but he says, okay, I will go with you. So that one day you will say, Karishye vachanam tava. So that is the sum and substance of Bhagavad Gita, is to align our desires with Krishna's will, and then that's all it takes. It doesn't really take much. So I'll stop here.
Just thinking that actually in the material world, after making a lot of considerations, after using this whole thought process, what's in it for me, I come to some conclusion or some decision. But even if it is a good decision or a bad decision, ultimately it's a bad decision, right? Because it always causes, or it prevents us from getting the highest good that the living entity is actually capable of getting. And the opposite is true, actually, when we think of how can I surrender to Krishna? And then I go through a whole list of reasons and think, if I do this, then I'll be able to serve Krishna. Even if I make a bad decision in the process. Even if, from a material calculation, that decision is not the best, but even a bad decision can actually become the most perfect decision, because Krishna, he sees the intention. So because the intention is that I want to serve Krishna, I want to serve you, so even if I've taken a wrong step, Krishna is right there to protect us. I was just thinking about the cowherd boys who decide to enter into Aghasur. Right? Krishna is standing there, and he gets into a state of anxiety and he says, oh my goodness, what are these cowherd boys trying to do? It's going to kill them. And then immediately Krishna follows them, right? So even if, and so we have seen over the course of our lifetime, whatever number of years that we have lived, that whenever we try to, have that as our guiding principle, then even if we take a wrong step, but somehow that wrong step in the end lands up becoming a good step. So this is actually the difference between a material decision-making process and a spiritual decision-making process. And this is what Arjuna is struggling with. And Arjuna's struggle is not something that is out of the ordinary. It's actually the struggle of each one of us, that, even when we come into spiritual life, we are still always thinking about what's in it for me. And we have this material calculation that's going on even with Krishna. And at some point, hopefully, as we keep practicing, but the magnanimity of Krishna is such that he actually calls such devotees to be Mahatmas or pious souls. He says actually such people are actually, very, very pious, and he accepts even that service which is materially contaminated. And in due course of time, as one continues on, then gradually that impurity is washed away, and then one is able to serve Krishna with no other motivation other than just a genuine desire to serve and to please. Hopefully we can pray for that. So I'll just pause here and see if there are any reflections or any comments or questions based on what we read so far and what we discussed. Yes, Eric.
I was just thinking if I was riding in an Uber and I knew that my driver, so if I was riding in an, I'm not good at these things.
Yeah.
There we go.
Is it working?
Yes.
So I was saying that if I was like riding in an Uber and I understood that the driver of the Uber was Krishna, I would definitely do whatever he told me to do, just based on all the weeks that I've been coming here. But the thing is that I have not yet had that experience. So with Arjuna, it's clear who is giving him these commands. But in the absence of some sort of experience like that, how do I know what Krishna's will is for me?
Very nice.
Well, I mean, we know Krishna's will through many ways. One is Bhagavad Gita is all the scriptures. They are Krishna's words directly. So they are meant to guide us. In any particular situation, we can definitely consult the words of Krishna because they are not different from him. The other way we know Krishna's will in our life is through the words of spiritual teachers. And if we have access to one directly, we can talk to them or write to them and find out what is the how to resolve a particular dilemma. And other is of course praying, and Krishna definitely reveals an answer in the heart. And we see that in scriptures also, when demigods and all these great personalities, they have a problem, like being tormented by demons or some other difficulty. They pray to Krishna and then Krishna speaks to them because he's sitting in the heart. So he can definitely speak to us and give us the direction. And the other is talking to devotees, consulting with devotees. Krishna speaks to the mouths of his devotees. So there are many ways where we can find out what is Krishna's will. The main thing that is required is the willingness to hear Krishna's will and accept it. And Krishna is definitely there to speak to us.
I was just thinking that I remember when the GPS first came, and I look at that shit before before we got the GPS, we'd go to AAA and get these road maps, right? And whenever we would travel, we used to have the AAA road maps. Then we would have those printouts from Google, right? And then that was not enough. When we would drive, he would also stop at a gas station just to make sure that we were going in the right direction. So there were three things. And then finally I thought, okay, now we have the GPS, so hopefully things will be better. But in the early days of GPS using, I remember we used to have the GPS, we would have the AAA, we would have the Google Maps, and every once in a while you would also ask people.
So I have 4 hands.
So the point is that over a period of time of doing that, he came to an understanding that the GPS works. That the GPS is in alignment, it does seem to do its job, and so eventually the AAA book fell off and then the maps fell off, right? And now he relies on the GPS. So I guess the reason I'm mentioning is not to make fun of you, but really to make this point that in the beginning, we may treat the words of the Bhagavad Gita or the words of the scriptures in a similar way. That we may say, okay, yeah, but how do I really know that this is Krishna really speaking to me, Because the Bhagavad Gita is really Krishna speaking to Arjuna, but also speaking to every living entity. But we may not have an experience of that. But as we continue to use the GPS and follow the directions, and we find ourselves arriving at the milepost that it says that you're supposed to, then your faith increases and you go, okay, well, seems like they know what they're talking about. So there is no substitute for experience. Because I can sit in a room and compare all the maps of the world and compare the GPS and all that and never really know if it's actually going to take me to a place until I get into the car and actually drive to that place and then see, yeah, it actually takes me there. So the Bhagavad Gita is a book that it's work in progress. One develops faith gradually. And then one can see that Krishna is actually speaking. And Krishna speaks. When we open the Srimad Bhagavatam and when you open the Bhagavad Gita, you can speak to any devotee and they'll tell you that they have this question or they're going through something and they open the purport and it's like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was thinking. So there is a lot of personal exchange that goes on as we read these scriptures. It's not static. I don't know.
But I know we've talked in previous sessions that you can't read the Bhagavad Gita and develop your own interpretations.
Yeah.
I could say, oh yeah, there's some people I'd really like to kill.
Yeah,
Say,
exactly.
Oh, now I can do it.
Yes, no, we cannot do that. And that's where, you need all these different things to kind of come together, right? You need the Bhagavad Gita, you also need the devotees, you need the previous teachers. So they all come together. The Guru Sadhu Shastra, that's a 3-point check and balance system that we use to make sure that what I'm hearing in my voice, so one morning I wake up and then your voice, I hear this voice in my heart that, I should go and kill anyone who doesn't believe in the Bhagavad Gita, right? And so I'm like, okay, Krishna has spoken to me, finally, let me go do that. So that's why we need an assembly of other devotees who we can check in with and say, do you think I really heard Krishna's voice or was it my own rascal mind? So, anybody else have any other thoughts?
I had one question.
Yeah.
So in a day-to-day life, it's not like we get many choices there. You have to kill like so many people versus
Yeah.
So in day-to-day life, so what kind of questions where you kind of ask like, what would Krishna do, or what would Krishna ask me to do? So yeah, so basically in a day-to-day life, most of the choices that I have to make are pretty mundane.
Yeah.
Like okay, what do I eat or where should I go? So how do you incorporate more Krishna consciousness in your day-to-day life?
Very nice question. Very nice question. Yeah, so it's we start with the basics. So in order for us to even think of spiritualizing our day or our mundane work or our family life, we have to first transform our consciousness. And the way we transform our consciousness is through the process of sadhana bhakti, right? So in the beginning, we take up a spiritual practice and we try to associate with spiritual sound vibration. So the way we do that is by the process of chanting, for example. So we get up every day, we chant, we make a vow, a discipline, right? Disciple means discipline. So when we take up a process and we say, okay, every day I'm going to chant so much, whether it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. For example, devotees who have made a commitment, they chant 16 rounds every day, right? But it all starts with taking some initiative of making some commitment that I'm going to start chanting maybe 1 round every day. And then increasing that gradually by maybe allowing ourselves to read the Bhagavad Gita, or study these scriptures or study these books. And so it's taking one baby step at a time. And just by doing that, actually, there is a transformation that happens. And my favorite example is how we make yogurt, right? So you have a pot of milk and you can keep thinking, how does this milk turn into yogurt? Well, it's not going to turn into yogurt if you just leave it there. But you have to heat it up and then you have to put a little starter. And it's just a tiny bit of starter, but next morning you have a pot full of yogurt. So same way, our consciousness is right now material. But just by adding a little bit of spiritual sound vibration, by hearing and chanting, Shravana Kirtanam, our consciousness will gradually become purified and will become transformed into spiritual. Actually, on that note, tomorrow is Ram Navami. And it's an incredibly auspicious day, one of the most powerful days in both our lives. Actually, Loktash, in our life, we have seen that Ram Navami is been very significant for us. We actually approached our Guru Maharaj on Ram Navami. We started chanting on 16 rounds also on Ram Navami day. So anyways, just want to encourage you, if you have any such intention in your heart, for a long time you've been thinking, I wish I could take up some spiritual practice. Tomorrow is a very powerful day to start. So just starting out with just maybe even chanting 1 round or how many ever rounds you want to do, and then seeing the transformation. Then, how one can change one's work and how one can live one's life according to Krishna's instructions will be revealed as a result of that. Otherwise, it's not possible. One has to first plug in.
Yeah, what that will allow us to do is, so many small things that we do. It says the rising tide raises everything, right? When our consciousness is higher, then we'll start making choices that will bring us closer to Krishna. Smaller things, what kind of work I should do, what kind of job I should take, what kind of education, how should I raise my children, what are the things I want to impart to my children, how I want to spend my day, right? How I want to unwind, how I want to enjoy. So many things we make either consciously or unconsciously. So when the consciousness is higher, then our heart will be attracted automatically to things which are conducive for Krishna consciousness. And so much of work is already done. And then when we have to make some conscious choice, when there is a dilemma, then at least we can pray to Krishna that please reveal to me what is good for, what is pleasing to you in this scenario, what will bring me closer to you. So when there are bigger decisions to make, then we can approach Krishna. So in the bottom of our heart, when the desire is that Krishna, I want to come close to you, my life, I want to use it to serve you. When that is the foundation in our consciousness, then Krishna starts arranging things, and most of the things he'll arrange, and then a lot of choices he'll make it for us. But many choices will be tested. So should I go this way or should I go that way? Those are the times when Arjuna is tested. Those are the times, if we have the right intention and consciousness, then Krishna will reveal it to us. And even if we make a wrong choice at that point, as you were saying, even if we make a wrong choice at that point, say our mind says, no, just do this, maybe this will bring you closer to Krishna. Even if that is a wrong choice, Krishna will correct that. Krishna will arrange the situation that even the wrong choice will become the right choice. Otherwise, if we are just going with our own mind, then we have to pay the price of our wrong choice. So, mundane things, the bottom line is getting more spiritual sound into our consciousness, and then see Krishna's magic. And when there is a confusion, dilemma, talk to Bhagavad Gita, talk to devotees, and pray to Krishna, and then he will reveal in different situations.
Does that help?
Did. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other feedback? Yes.
I really like the example you were giving of the GPS. I put a lot of faith in GPS and everybody.
Yeah.
It's a faith, once the GPS is there, then however far the destination is, I know we go there. But sometimes I take a different road. I say, no, I can just but so it reroutes it.
Yeah.
So it's very similar to like what you were saying, that even if you take a wrong turn, wrong decision, GPS is still with us. It says, I'll still take you, I'll figure it out. I'll come with you, we'll take the rerouting, and then we'll go back on the path.
Calculating, right?
Calculating. So I really liked it, that one is the faith that we have on it, and secondly that you're sure that even if we take a wrong path, we come on the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's changed the way we drive, right?
Yes.
I can't imagine life, how we drove before that,
Yeah, now when I go to New York, how did I come to New York without a GPS?
I remember. That's what I was telling everybody. There used to be sheets of paper.
And now we are so dependent on GPS. Just before coming to the class, that is why I was late, because I had to pick up something from Akshara Mangala Market on the way, and my GPS did not work. My phone did that. And then I had to go around the other day. I lost 10 minutes just to find the house.
That's amazing.
Yeah, sometimes GPS doesn't work.
It doesn't, right? Yeah, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah.
So we have to believe that Krishna is more reliable than.
Oh yes, yes. It's a mundane example. If stretched too far, breaks apart.
But if you use the wrong GPS, which means you use the wrong text to follow you this thing,
Yeah.
it can end you up in trouble because.
Yeah, but the only way you know is if you've used it for a while. You develop faith only through experience. Otherwise, how do you really know? I mean, there's so many people saying so many different things, and what do you know? Yes, actually.
I was trying to come to the rehab center to visit Loka Prabhu. That day my phone stopped working. At home, I didn't see the directions step by step because I knew that GPS is there for me to guide me. Before reaching that place, it's completely dead. I can't talk to anybody. I don't have any maps. I don't know how to come. But I have only faith that Krishna will take me somehow.
Really? And that's how you got there that day?
Yeah, really. I know that area a little bit. But somehow, I made a couple of turns, I came.
Wow, that's amazing.
Just to add on to the GPS example,
Yeah.
one more realization. So GPS works only if you're connected. with the man. So it's saying that if you're connected with Krishna, then only it will work.
That's a nice one. Yes, that's true. That's true. Wow, you can give a lecture on GPS.
Nowadays I am driving alone everywhere. So like yesterday I drove to Surat to the class, basketball class. It is far away in Rockville, and it was 7 pitch dark. 7:30. Somewhere it said you reached your destination. I was searching where is the destination. And then Swaru told me, let's chant Hare Krishna. Then we chanted half of the beat, and then one guy suddenly came in and he said, you guys looking for something? Then we wrote down.
Really?
We asked, and then he said it's a couple of miles away.
Yeah, we feel safer, right? I mean, it's hard to navigate this world without some kind of guidebook. We come into this world. I mean, all of us probably have an experience of that. When I was in college, when I was in school, so much confusion, and I used to read so much, and I remember reading all kinds of books and getting more and more confused and feeling like, what's all of this about? And seeing suffering around, seeing so many things that just didn't make any sense. And so it's sort of similar, right? Driving without any kind of a navigation system and not knowing, is this a destination? Have I arrived? Or is this, and this is something I can really connect with, because every time I desired something, I would get it. And in some ways, okay, I've arrived, but I would never feel like I've arrived. Because I would always feel that, no, this is not my destination. This cannot be my destination because this doesn't feel like my destination, right? So that's why we need a sort of a guidebook or a navigation system that tells us that, yeah, this is really what you're meant for. This is where you're supposed to arrive. So, yes.
Sorry for disturbing the
Oh.
class, but can the children come up?
Are we already done? Gosh, Krishna has time. 8:50, so we didn't have Ram. Maybe tomorrow we can do a conference call on Ram Navami.
Yeah.
I think that way we can spend more time. 10 minutes would have not been good anyways. So tomorrow we'll let you know. Tomorrow is Ram Navami, so tomorrow is actually fasting. Is it fasting till evening? There are two schools of thought. Yeah. Because Lord Ramachandra actually appeared at noontime, so there is both.
Make a choice if you're really faster, kind of that, and then go evening.
There is our noontime.
Sunset.
Sunset. When we first became devotees, it always was noontime. So I don't know why things are changing on that one, but take your pick. And then we'll read something tomorrow from Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah. So we'll announce on the Gita WhatsApp group.
Everyone's on the Gita WhatsApp group, right?
Who's not? You're not?
I'm not.
You're not. So I'll
Prabhu,
take
I'm
your
not.
phone numbers.
You're not? Really?
You're not in Gita class?
Is there a Gita WhatsApp?
Gita class WhatsApp.
I only have a
You're also not? Okay.
I only have a WhatsApp. Yes. And the God's service.
So we can end this broadcast and then start the